Hello friends, welcome to Pap Studio. This is Bhupalan. Today we're going to talk about the ghost. Yes, the threading. So threading is the most important concept you're supposed to understand before go for any Android technical interview. So we'll talk about it in details. So don't skip this video. It has a lot of informations like what is the threading and what are the different use cases we're supposed to handle as part of Android developments, and what are the existing APIs, what are the current APIs available for Android, and what are the best practices as well. Let's dive into the video now. So first we have to understand threading. So by default, Android going to give you one thread that we call it as the main thread. So all your UI operations has to be happen on the main threads. So this main thread is responsible for all the user interactions and whatever the information user sees as part of your application. For button click or something scrollable in the list view or zoom in the images. So all kind of operation has to be happen on the main thread. Having said that, what if this main thread, on the main thread, user clicks on the button and then we supposed to perform some operations. In that case, this is an operations and I'm putting it on the main thread. So what will happen? So if this operation takes more than 5 seconds, then the application will pop up with A and R. That is nothing but application not responding error, which means application tells the user that application takes more time to process your request. Would you able to keep the mobile on, or you just wanted to quit the application? So it will throw that pop-up to the user. User may force to quit the applications. So main thread can able to handle only the small operations. If the operation is big enough, then your main thread will not able to handle these operations. So that's where we supposed to create another thread. We call it as a background threads. So it's a thread created by the user. I could say it's managed by the users. So what are the different scenarios we can go for a background threads? So here are the list of the use cases I just come across. So probably if I missed anything, please feel free to put in the comments. I can able to handle it. So first one is network calls. This is a basic operations. Even in any applications, when you click on the items, it will pop up with the details. For example, Amazon. So Amazon is the list of items available for you. The moment you click on it, it will show a detail screen that will have the more information about the items. So how this can be performed? The moment you click on it, it will make a network calls and process the network operations, and the result it will display on the detail screen. The next one is read and write file in the storages. For example, in our application gift registry, the user capture the images. We just take the images and put it into the file system for further usage. For example, to sync with the Google Drive as well. So this operation we call as read and write operation. That will take more time based on your camera quality. So that operation should not be done on the main threads. It has to be the background thread. Next one is performing the code operations. Code sense like create, update, read and delete. These operations can be done as part of our database communication. For example, in our application we were using the room database, SQLite I could say. So all this operation has to be happened in the background thread, because reading and writing the information into the database obviously takes more time. Next, process the images and the videos. So if you are doing the video or image related applications, so process the images obviously will take time. That has to go to the background threads. And downloading the images or downloading the videos obviously takes time. Performing the synchronization with the backend on the specific interval. For example, if your application depends on the configurations, that has to be done even before application has to be opened, and also you want that configuration to be updated in the specific interval, then those kind of operation has to be happened in the background threads too. So caching the data for better performance and processing and uploading the data, which means in our application we just converting our database into the JSON and then uploading into the Google Drive. So that will take time that I cannot do it in the main thread. And uploading the user location. So this updating the user location is a very much ghost that has a lot of rules and regulations on the system that we're going to talk later. And then playing audio, obviously. And there are driver applications like a AAA, and there are other driving insurance. They used to give the application that you're supposed to install as part of Android mobile. So that will monitor the user's speed and their location and all. So those kind of application also require background workers. There are some other application like Fire TV that going to gives you the remote control within the mobile. So the moment you use that remote control, it will sit on the notification bar. From there itself, you can able to control the TV through the mobile device. So these are the common scenarios. So we have use cases. Now we want to differentiate these use cases based on this diagram. So any task, any given task can be categorized in the 3D. One is immediate, long running, and deferrals. So immediate is something that has to be happened right away. For example, opening your Amazon application, the moment you click on the list items, it has to fetch the data immediately in order to show the detailed scripts. Those kind of tasks we can be considered as immediate task. Even immediate task can be further divided into two. One is impersistent and another one is persistent. So impersistent is something I'm giving you the task, you will just execute it, that's it, that's well enough, you just give me the response and then you forgot it. And there are some other things, it's a persistent. It's like I'm scheduling this operation for a specific interval and this must be happen as soon as possible, even application quit or you reboot the devices. So it's a kind of scheduling the operations. So this has to be taken care by the operating systems. So persistent and impersistent. Then we have long running task. So this task takes more time but can be executed as soon as possible, but it takes more time. And another one is a deferrable task that can run later. No worries in that. It will take its own time, own sweet time to run the data. That has to be executed immediately to perform a certain operation for the users. For the best example for deferrable task is syncing the data with the Google Drive as we do it. And the long running task, the better example is once you go to the detail screen for the same Amazon applications and then you are entering all the operations, but there are some images in the detail screen like 10 images and then one videos. So to download those images can be put in the long running because that is not an immediate expectation for the users. We have plenty of APIs to perform the background threads in Android. We have Angular, Thread, Coroutines for Kotlin developers, intent service, job intent service, job scheduler, service that has foreground, background and bound services, and we have assign task and WorkManager as well. So having this many APIs, it's really difficult to convince the interviewer which API I supposed to go for what task. So that's what we're going to discuss in the next few seconds. So also as we have this many APIs, it doesn't mean all the APIs are available at the moment for the developer to use. There are many APIs that are deprecated, but the Android developers still using it because they are not migrating their application into the Kotlin. They're still using a Java platform, and that's the reason they are not able to move it further. Here are the APIs that got deprecated in the recent times. So we'll talk one after another. Services, we have background, foreground and bound services. Background services is fully deprecated, so you won't able to run the background services for a long time hereafter. So whereas in the foreground services it's still available, but it got migrated into the WorkManager. So you have to use the WorkManager in order to create a foreground thread hereafter. And we have bound services that's still available. The bound services typically used for the music players where we have multiple components on the notifications, and based on the previous, next and the pause button, we'll have to do the appropriate operation in the background. So music player is the best example for a bound services. And if you want to create any remote kind of application that is display on the notification bar, then you can go for a bound services. The best example is say Fire TV. So if I say TV remote is something that sits on the top of the notification with all available option, you can operate that itself. So in that scenario, you can go for a bound service. And we have intent services that got deprecated in Android 30 onwards. So you have to use a WorkManager. Async task, it was deprecated long days back. If you are using async task in your application, you have to replace it with Coroutines. And we have job intent service that also deprecated and replaced with WorkManager. Job scheduler, obviously deprecated, replaced with WorkManager too. And if you have used Handler, you have to use the Coroutines. If you are using threads, then you are using the Coroutine as well. The earlier we have seen a lot of APIs. Now those APIs are drilled down into just 3 APIs right now. One is the Coroutines, WorkManager and bound services. So let's see what to use for which scenario. As we discussed earlier, we have 3 different variety of tasks: immediate, long running and deferrables. Immediate tasks can be further divided into 2. One is impersistent and persistent. So impersistent has to use coroutines, and persistent should use a WorkManager. That's fine now. Next one is a long running task. So all the long running tasks like downloading the images, uploading the images or downloading the videos has to be use WorkManager by setting foreground services. So long running tasks must use the WorkManager with foreground service options, which means we have option in the WorkManager to create a foreground service. That's the option you're supposed to use. The moment you create a foreground services, as all we know, it will create a notification on the top and it will do the process in the background. Once everything is completed, it will update in the notifications. The best example would be the health applications. The moment you use the health app, so you just walk, it will create a notification on the top by updating like how long you are running and what are the number of steps you have crossed, and then it keep updating the notification in the regular interval. By the time it will track your user location as well. So which means you are creating the foreground services from the top and you keep updating the data. You keep working on the back end. So that's because the foreground services. Please remember, when application create a foreground services and it goes background, like which means you are not seeing the application, also this state can be considered as a foreground zone, which means application is though application is not visible to the user, as it's create the foreground services, the app is considered as running in the foreground. The last one is deferrable. As we say, it is a deferrable. It's supposed to work some point in time later. So even you quit the applications, as we said, even you quit the applications, it needs to survive and it needs to execute. So that feasibility is only available in the WorkManagers. The WorkManager internally uses the room database in order to process your work request. Once you make the work request, it will ensure that that work is running some point in time later for sure, even the application restart or your device is restarted or your application is quit. So as it's a deferrable task, which means it's supposed to execute some point in later, then it's supposed to use WorkManager as well. So thing is that how long that specific work can be done. If that work can be done within 10 minutes, then it doesn't need to create a foreground services. If the task can run more than 10 minutes, it's supposed to use a WorkManager. The same rules is applicable for immediate task with the persistent as well. As we discussed earlier, the immediate task, persistent one, also using the WorkManager. So if the persistent task can be run within 10 minutes, then it don't need to create a foreground services. If it runs more than 10 minutes, then definitely it's supposed to use a foreground services of WorkManager. Having all this information, let's review our common use cases and try to understand what we go for what. The first one is network calls. That has to be happen in the immediate manner, so we have to use for a coroutines there. Next one is read and write files in storage. So this is a long running task. That's not an immediate one. This can be worked in the background as well. So obviously we will go for the intermediate and the persistent one. We put it into the WorkManager. Next one is the performing code operations in the database. Database read and write will take time, but it's not that long. So obviously we can go for a coroutines. And processing images, audios, videos, obviously we'll have to go for a long running task. It has to be considered as a long running task. So it has to use the WorkManager with the foreground service on, because we never know how long it will take. Next one is the processing images, audio and video. So this can be a long running task, but it can be done within 10 minutes. So we can use a WorkManager without foreground services on. Downloading video and images to display. Downloading the images will not take much time, so it can be considered as immediate and persistent. So it's supposed to use a coroutines. Whereas downloading the videos may take long time, so it can be considered as immediate and the persistent, and we'll have to go for the WorkManager. The next one is performing the data synchronization with the background with the specific interval. So obviously it is a periodic one, so we are supposed to use a WorkManager to schedule the task, and if it's obviously it may take more than 10 minutes, so we'll have to put the foreground service on, and then we'll have to use the WorkManager for it. Then cache the data for better performance, so which means we might download the data in the specific interval. So in that case we'll use the periodic options available in the WorkManager, so we don't need to create a foreground services for that, because the caching the data, if less than 10 minutes I'll give it to you. If it's less than 10 minutes, you don't have to create a foreground services. If it takes more than 10 minutes, then you have to create a foreground service in order to cache your data. Next one is process and upload the data. Again the same WorkManager with the foreground service on or off based on your requirements. Updating the user services, you're supposed to create a foreground services with the WorkManager. For playing audio, obviously you'll have to use the bound services, because it has a multiple option like forward, backward, pause, those kind of options. So you can use the bound services in this case. Having said that, this is what you're supposed to clear before you go for an interview. So all the very best. Jai Hind. Thank you so much for watching the video. Bye.